Hey there guys, fellow writers, Right fans. Today is September, I have no idea what day of September it is. Pick a day that's sort of in the middle and there you go. Who cares what the date is anyway? It's 2016, that's all that matters. Anyway, welcome to Right, episode 2, characters. Where would we be without them? Where would our stories go? Probably nowhere but the slush pile. You gotta have characters that people won't easily forget. And today I'm going to talk about how you can make your characters more interesting and make them into people that your readers want to read about. Let's start with villains. Number one rule you want to keep in mind about villains, if they're like an actual character and not like a situation that's against your protagonist, don't make villains evil for no reason. Nobody just wakes up one day and decides I'm going to lead an evil life, unless you're playing Fable, and I love that game by the way. Don't make them evil for no reason. Villains, a really good villain is going to have some sort of backstory that gives him the motivation for being the way they are, whether it's a he or she. Maybe your villain lost somebody they loved a long time ago through very tragic means and they couldn't do anything about it, so maybe they're bent on revenge or something. Villains always think they're right. Even though they're in the wrong, they always think they're right. They always try to justify their actions. So make them people that your reader's going to love to hate. Give them quirks, give them maybe funny characteristics that you like, make them trick the reader, make them think that they're going to be really nice to another character and then bam, they betray them. Okay, as for your protagonist, in layman's terms, that means your hero of the story, your main character. And speaking of that, they don't necessarily have to be a hero or hero material. You want them to be like real people, only more magnified. And you don't want them to be too perfect, either in appearances or skills. What they call that when a character is like that is, if it's a female, it's a Mary Sue. If it's a male, it's a Gary Stu. This character is probably the most boring character you'll ever read about. I've read books where the main protagonist was just so gorgeous or so handsome, they could do no wrong, they were good at everything, they had like hardly any faults, and it's just like, oh my gosh, make it stop! It's so boring! They're so perfect, you just want to jump right into the book and start a fist fight with them just so they'll have some sort of human reaction. Okay, as I stated before, characters need to be like, if you're basing them off of someone in real life, they need to be an exaggerated form of reality. But they also have to be complete with their own set of strengths, weaknesses, their quirks, certain traits. I mean, where's the excitement in perfection, okay? Like, okay, for an example, perhaps character A is horrible at social interaction. Boy, that sounds like me. They're horrible at social interaction, but, hey, who said you could be in this video? That's my new co-star, I think. I think I might fire him, though. He doesn't talk very much. Character A is horrible at social interaction with other characters, but they might be great at spotting a potential murderer. They might see things that other people don't see because of their past experiences. Another example, character B might seem like a complete jerk at first, but they possess a strong sense of loyalty to your main character. Think of Ron Weasley from the Harry Potter books. He can be a real jerk when he wants to be. There's no denying it. But you know that he would never betray his friends. He might get mad at them, he might fight with them, he might not talk to them for a couple weeks, or in Ron's case, a few months. Goblet of fire, anybody? But you know that you can count on them when the chips are down. And if you're writing a really good story, you gotta make the chips down a lot. Because if you don't have any conflict in your story is going to die faster than an ice cream cone on an Arizona sidewalk in August. Okay, moving on. Character names. A character's name should define them as a person and kind of give you a sense of who they are without revealing everything. Like, a person whose name is Hawk Winters might convey a detective or something, whereas a name like Lydia Bloomfield might conjure up some retired old lady who enjoys hosting fancy tea parties. I think I like her. And like names for villains, sometimes a villain doesn't need an evil sounding name. Sometimes they're evilness, or sometimes in betweenness, if you're not really sure in the story where they're going, can be kind of neutral. About character reactions, when you're thinking about how to write character reactions to situations, you almost might want to think about how you would react. Put yourself in your character's shoes and try to convey on paper what you would be feeling. Except once you've done that, swap out your personality traits and put theirs in. Example, like say a character witnesses a really terrible car accident. You might describe how the sight would affect him or her. Like, if it's a character who's kind of aloof and quiet and they're not really good at showing their emotions, they're probably not going to have a big reaction on the outside to any casual observer, but on the inside, they might kind of be screaming. Or it might even be a lower key reaction, like a numbing in the chest or in their nauseous feeling in the gut, but they may not say anything. They definitely will be thinking something, though. I mean, really, if you're going to witness something as horrific as a car accident, you're going to think something, no matter what it is. Think about the character's basic personality and then adapt his or her reaction accordingly to the situation you want them to react to. Likewise, if you're aloof character who's not very emotional, say somebody gives them a surprise birthday party or something like that, something that's going to make them really happy. They're going to be happy, but not like really happy, like, oh my god! Ah! That's annoying even when you just imagine it. They're probably going to be like, oh wow, that's really wonderful, or something like that. They're going to keep it low key. Another thing you want to keep in mind about characters is that, like real people, they need to grow and mature as the story progresses. Like, here's a great example. In my favorite book series, The Edge Chronicles by Paul Stewart and Chris Riddell, in their what I call the Twig saga, it's about this character named Twig. He starts off in the series as a young boy who's about 13 years old. He's very, not childish, but he doesn't really know where he's going in life. He's basically just had to leave his village because he found out he's not one of them. So the whole book is about finding himself in the first one. By the time you get to the second book, he's aged a few years. He's acting like a teenager, but he's starting to develop some leadership qualities. And then by the third book, he's a total leader by then. He knows what to do. You put him in a bad situation, and he immediately begins thinking and planning. So from book 1, he was this scared little kid, to book 3, you see a lot of growth. And that's probably what makes Twig one of my favorite characters in literature, because you see so much growth, and he's just a fantastic character. If you want to know more about him, read The Edge Chronicles Beyond the Deep Woods. Main characters should not be dull and colorless. You don't want them wimps. If you want an example, think of the guy who you're standing behind at the pizza place who's taking 15 minutes to decide what kind of pizza he wants. And by the time he orders, you're so mad that you just want to take him in the back room and shove him headfirst into the oven. These are people I'm talking about. They like to take action. They don't just sit there and wait for someone to bail them out. They're decisive. Even if their decision leads them to further disaster, at least they're doing something. You don't want characters who run away at the first sign of trouble. It's okay if they're scared. Like one of my characters, Etienne, in my one of my fantasy books, she's in the woods at night alone, and the first night she's alone in the woods on her travels, with her only companion as her horse, she is scared to death because of all these strange creatures in the woods who she could see their eyes, they're just frightening her. Does she go home? No, she stays there. And you know what? After a while, it's not so scary for her anymore. But the characters are allowed to be scared. They're human. Well, okay, some of them are human. But if they have a personality, which they should, they're allowed to be scared. But make them take action to figure out a solution. Now I want to get into the hero's sidekick, or the protagonist sidekick. That should be somebody that your main character likes to be around and can't really do without. It's kind of like your main hero's best friend, someone they rely on, a mentor. But don't be afraid to let your sidekick have heroic moments and stand out. They are your protagonist support system. Let them argue with your main character. Even maybe betray them if it makes things more interesting. They are good to have, because let's face it, I don't care how heroic you are, I don't care how strong you are as a protagonist, you need help. Everybody needs help. Nobody takes down the villain single-handedly. A lot of characters in stories, they all maybe they have just one tiny little role to play, but if they need to play that role for the main hero to deal the final blow, basically. How do you know if your moral protagonist is interesting enough? In general, if you wouldn't want to date someone with their personality, chances are they're not interesting enough. Right now don't even think about the gender, just their personality alone. If you don't like their personality and don't want to be around them because you don't find them interesting enough, chances are your readers won't find them interesting enough. So that's a good rule of thumb to go on. Now a little bit about character dialogue. Unlike me, right on this video, don't let characters give long-winded speeches unless they're either telling a story, conducting a meeting, or giving an actual speech. But even so, keep their dialogue short, unless it no more than a few sentences, unless they're telling a story. Or if they're telling a story, then that's a distraction. You don't even notice how much they're talking. Avoid trendy speeches like slang, unless it's slang that we've used for like the last 100 years or so. Or your book is gonna get dated fast. Okay, now this is a little special section that I've written, which is something that I've realized through my experience of writing over the last 20 years. The real truth about characters is sometimes they can tell the story better than you can. And what I mean by that is that their actions and their diverse personalities will sometimes point you in different directions than you initially intended. Because once you really put yourself in your character's shoes and you find out where they're going to take the scene, you're going to go along with it, and sometimes you don't even want to. Another thing in the truth about characters, a lot of beginning writers do this. They often feel the need to keep characters out of conflict because it's fun to write all the happy stuff, you know. Don't do it. When conflict departs your story, so does all the fun, and so do your readers. Conflict doesn't have to be all battles and swords and gunshots and vampire attack type things. Just give your characters some problem to deal with, whether it's someone picking on them at school, or a mean teacher, or maybe their best friend is dating their girlfriend or something like that, you know. Give them some sort of problem to deal with, and then don't have them run away from that problem. Make them deal with it. And now this is probably the most important thing that I've learned about characters over the years. They won't always do what you want them to do. You might want your badass detective who's kind of aloof. You might want him to comfort that crying little girl who just lost her parents in that car accident, but his stoic personality just won't allow it. You want him to comfort her and you want him to pick her up and hug her, but that's just not his way. However, that doesn't stop him from taking a bullet for that little girl when the killers want to take her down as well. There's many different ways characters can show their goodness and loyalty. It doesn't always have to be verbal. So that's about it for characters today. I might make a second video on this topic. You got any questions, comments? Put them in the comments. Any other suggestions for video? And my name is Andrea M. Redlin, author of For Her Courage, a Holly Hollow tale. If you like my videos, please like and subscribe, and I will be making many more. Bye guys, love y'all, bye.